Getting back. So as you can see, I got my knockoff Yeti tumbler. It's a I forgot what it's called. You can buy these from Walmart. They're super cheap, like $10. They work really well. So the poly printers that we fix at the makerspace, we go through a ton of, we clog nozzles really constantly because people use random ABS filament. They bring their own filament, which is great because people can buy cheap filament, but it's also bad because people can bring cheap filament. So we constantly have to just go through nozzles. We go through at least like $100 worth of nozzles like a month. So we have a monthly stipend for nozzles basically to keep them online. But they do break every once in a while. Let me put this out of the way. Okay, put this to right here. Okay, so let's shift the camera a little bit so you can see more. You can see a lot. See, this has a really square frame, and I kind of want to. I should get it taller. Like I should mount the camera up, not on the ceiling, but really high with the tripod. The tripod's actually on the table right now, facing down this way towards me. What I really want to do in future builds or future videos is actually have a first-person view, where I have the camera in front of me, like here, and then I'll be like working. I don't know, this might be better. You can kind of see the screen. I'm trying to make the screen look a little bit better, but it's kind of hard for me to see. Yeah, I don't think you can see that even at full screen. Can you? Yeah, I can't really see it either. Okay. Well, just follow along with me. You can see the pretty pictures. So z-axis, top left, some green. Orientation. Top left, top right. Z-axis, bottom left, z-axis, bottom right. The actual poles are on the opposite side. And these screw covers. These things. Oh god, these don't look that good. They must print them either really quickly or yeah, I don't know. Oh, they have the three little like prongs inside there for basically, I think the screw rods kind of hold it in place. I guess I don't know. Use the hole for 8mm smooth rod as a orientation key for the next steps. Oh, cool. Now with the big part. Tools out of my way. This baggie out of the way. This box. Got this printer is gonna weigh like maybe 10 pounds after it's done. Okay. So this is the way the frame goes. I don't think I have to worry about scratching it. Shows you how level this table is. Place parts on the frame as shown in the picture. Note that the frame orientation, Prusa logo, has to be visible. Okay. Z-axis. There, Q, this stuff, E-axis, Y-axis, and this thing. There's really not that many parts to this. M3 by 10. M3 by 10. What's cool is they're 1:1 scale. So I just figured that out. I mean, I saw that before, but what's cool about 1:1 scale is I could put these on the picture and they line up perfectly. If you can't see that, basically the screw is the size of the picture. So you know the difference between a M12 by an M10 screw, or an M3 by 10. That's really cool. Like they thought of everything, and this is why I don't design my own kits, because I'd be doing all this support for this kit, and I don't think I'd match Prusa's, you know, like thing. They definitely made a lot of changes to it, and the firmware alone, like he actually writes the firmware, or helps write the firmware. So like I wouldn't be able to really write the firmware. So that's also part of building a kit. It's having custom firmware for that kit. I don't know. I wouldn't sell the kits probably. I would design my own printer and then just use, you know, Marlin, base Marlin, and then kind of have my own settings for Marlin. But I wouldn't actually write my own firmware like Prusa did. There's a lot of built-in stuff with Marlin though. That's pretty cool. The other thing I noticed too about this kit is they don't use a lot of washers. There's 4 washers in this kit, 6 washers, and they don't really use washers. I don't know if it's because they're plastic parts or because the metal parts. Like, I don't understand why they're so, like, it's good because less washers is less things they have to put together in the kit and worry about. They also don't use a lot of lock washers. There's only a few lock washers. Everything either screws into the plastic or screws into the metal, which is great because things should screw in the metal, not plastic, if at all necessary. I'm tired, but I want to get this done. So, what am I looking at? PLA has this weird gloss to it, and it's actually transparent. PLA is quite transparent, or at least this color is. So it's kind of cool. You can look through your parts after you're done with them and see the infill, because I don't really get that with ABS. ABS is pretty translucent. So translucent and transparent are different things. I figured that out the hard way. So I got this song stuck in my head from there's a Key and Peele skit. What is it called? Aerobics something. It's where they're both dancing in like a live, dancing competition or aerobics competition, and the guy with the cue cards off camera is telling him that his wife and kids were in an accident, and asking him if he knows anybody that might have done something like that, and then he looks over to his partner, who winks at him, and so he ends up like going after him. I don't know. It's funny. There's a lot of good Key and Peele skits. I think one of my favorite ones is the steampunk guy. He tries to act like a gangster, but he's like all dressed in steampunk and has a bicycle that's all steampunked out, and starts talking to this like gangster guy under a bridge, and the guy like doesn't know what to do. I think what's really dry about being on a live stream is I can't play music, because if I play music, it's going to be against YouTube's copyright. So like I can't listen to music while I'm building this. And it's just so dry. Like it's basically me talking to myself without music. These are a little loose, so I don't know if they're going to have any straight orientation. or if it really matters. Get the screw. So I'm not putting more than maybe a few inch-pounds into this, or whatever that is, Newton centimeters. Which I don't know what a Newton centimeter is, but I'm assuming that's what I'm putting into it. Just finger tight, basically at the fulcrum. I mean, these things aren't going anywhere. The plastic will break before the joints break. Placing the screw covers. Screw covers on fully to the motor screws. Covers should be screwed fully to the motor, but not too tight. The motor should keep spinning freely. I don't really know how the motor covers work, because they're going to either screw into the base or they're going to strip out, which I think is what they do. So that means that we have to unscrew. Oh my god, that's so cool. Wow. Wow. There is like very little tolerance. Like there's a little bit of backlash, but like this thing is mostly straight. It's probably not perfectly straight, but that's way straighter than threaded rod. Threaded rod is like visibly not straight. I mean, as far as I can tell, with I have a little bit of a distortion when I look down like far into the distance, but as far as I can tell, there's pretty much no skew at all. And these things are light too, because they're small NEMA 17s. They don't have to be giant, massive ones like on my Mendel 90. So they have 48-ounce motors and everything. It's interesting that they use 1.8 degree steppers and not oh, they're 4-star. That is pretty cool. Yeah, 1.8 degree steppers instead of 0.09. I think 0.09 actually makes a little bit of a difference. I don't know if you get more torque for less steps, or you're basically doubling your steps without having to use anything like that. Oh, cool. They stand up. Man, I should have been using that for a while. Screw, 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 all the way down. God, that is just so cool. So these are really steep. These are steep threads, and steep threads actually. How does that? Oh, duh. There's nothing constraining the caps. the caps just kind of tightly hold onto the thread, but the thread is actually solid. It's part of the motor shaft. Oh, that is just so weird. So the these threaded axes are actually go all the way through to the back bearing. So they must be bearing bound on both sides. Um, that's so cool. I don't know where he got these Z screws, but I kind of want one now. I want these for the Mendel 90. The Mendel 90 had the worst. They're not Z wobble, but like it takes forever because of the really tight pitch of 8mm rod. It takes forever for it to go up and down, and then I have to use brass nuts on steel shafts. So if it gets out of sync, it basically just it strips the. It starts to strip the thread. So I haven't had problems with my other Mendel 90, but I figured out that the Mendel 90 that I helped build for the space actually had the Z top was actually inverted backwards, so the Z rod was slightly off on one side, and it was binding one of the sides and getting it out of sync, and then it would strip the nut. So now I have a problem where the feed tube that goes in the E3D V6 hot end, E3D V6 light, the tube goes all the way down to the nozzle, but it actually it seems to want to pull up through the extruder, and I need to figure out a way to keep it from pulling back up. I tried gluing it, but super glue doesn't seem to be effective. But maybe I'm doing something wrong. Okay, so I see what these caps are for. These caps are probably to basically to keep dust from going into the motor bearing. That you definitely don't want your bearing getting caught. God, these are so cool. These are so cool. Yeah, between this, the Z screws, the auto leveling probe, and the firmware that's written for it, which there's auto leveling probes for the other printers, but looks like the firmware is more custom than the existing firmware, and the E3D V6 being included, like those are the three things that I think are the main selling point for me. But the more I build this, I think the more I'm finding all the little details are kind of what matters. I still want to get a Wanhao i3 just to see like how that works, especially for $200-300. Even the TiVo Tarantula, I'd be okay with figuring that one out. But I don't like how the TiVo looks. I like how the Wanhao looks. The TiVo looks like it's a piece of crap, actually. I'd be so frustrated building the TiVo Tarantula. I probably would not use it for what it was intended for. So, next step. Neat. I should probably make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Let's see what that looks like on OBS. It looks a little bit better, but you still can't see. Yeah, it might look better once the stream is completed. Okay. Place the Z motors on the frame. Z motor left, labeled with Z level left axis. Ensure correct position of the motors. Okay. This says left. This is my left. Says right. This is my right. I probably should know my left from my right, but I have figured that out after training myself for many times. M3 by 10. M3 by 10. Oh, washers. Yes, use washers. I would see that if I just looked here. Just pick up the washers that have the stamped side up. That way you can easily see them. Or you can pick them up with your fingers. The wrench barely fits between the Z screw and the motor. The other issue with a lot of other printers is the couplers, and this pretty much eliminates couplers, which is always good because couplers kind of suck, and they're also, I think, pretty much a weak point in a lot of printers. Again, I would probably just, if you're gonna spend the extra money to build a printer, might as well just use these screws the next time you do it. They sell them on eBay. I don't know what they're actually called, but I think they're just Acme 4-star Acme through the shed. Actually, I think Folger Tech actually sells them. They might be included in their Folger Tech kits. A lot of the Prusa clones actually use these screws, ironically, but I forgot a washer. That's not good. I bet there's a lot of torque with these Z screws, especially if they're going to be basically skipping against the top brackets. The tolerances are super tight though. Like these screw holes screw perfectly into the motor. There's no reaming basically. Never really had problems with my other printers, but just good to know that all your parts are accurate. Like the axis compensation. Um, yeah, the axis compensation. I'm wondering if that actually reduces artifacts, especially X, Y, so that these, if I put them against the T-square, would be perfectly at an angle. I can test this by, see, this is flat, but like, if I put something against something that should be parallel, is it perfectly parallel? I can't really tell, but again, where do you get something that's square? Nothing is perfectly square, except for machine flat surfaces. But I'd have to get my T-square. I'll probably square the frame, but it's kind of hard to square the frame, especially like how this is. I might have to use a T-square, but I might do it afterwards and just see what needs to be adjusted. I used the T-square on the Mendel 90 to see if the Mendel 90 like pillow blocks were square too. Because if your 3D printer is not printing the parts square, then your printer that you're printing the parts from are not going to be square either. That's the benefit of using extruded aluminum sides, is that extruded aluminum sides are usually flat, so you can make perfect 90-degree parts. Always tighten in a cross pattern. Again, I'm just giving it a kind of a fulcrum grip. That is not moving at all. Yeah. That's probably the tightest that's going to be. I'm actually going to separate all the M3x12s. Make sure I have 4 of them. So it's kind of like if you're building Legos. You're like, oh no, I used a 1x1 brick. Or I should have used like a 1x2. And now I don't have enough to complete my kit. Neat. Okay. Should have enough. I want to see why this one screw doesn't screw. Okay, I think it has to do with the alignment of the plastic. It's pretty tight tolerances. They twist their motor wires, which is good. They twist them up to a certain point, so I don't think these have to be super tight, but yeah, the Z motor fits in really tightly into the Z block. There you go. Just needs to be a little straight. So I don't want to crush these wires, but wires are basically like in the plastic grooves. So Facebook enabled encrypted end-to-end encryption in their messenger. And I've been playing with it. It's kind of cool because you can have messages erased automatically, but you can take screenshots and there's no real way to get around it. Somebody else interpreting your conversation just to get your phone messages off your phone. So if you're both in kind of agreement to never take screenshots of each other's messages, you can have kind of private conversations. But I don't really know what's the point of using it, other than to be super secure. But again, who knows who also has access to that information besides you, assuming nobody knows your keys. But the keys are displayed, so I don't know how that works. I would like Snapchat, like something like Snapchat, where like it will tell if any other program try to interpret the phone, if it like took any screenshots. It'd be also cool to know if anybody like even if it would knows that somebody tried to take a picture of you or something. Like I don't know if there's any way to really be secure about messages, but a mutual agreement between the two people. But like Snapchat is pretty cool if you use it right. Just now Snapchat's become more public than private. Neat. Okay. Now back to the x-axis. Let's see. Let's move the frame over here onto this part. Put this over here. Insert M3 nuts. Okay. Put this upside down. Let's put it in the orientation that they show. It's probably what I tell you, but use pliers. Looks like the flat sides go in at an angle. These are kind of loose, but probably be easier if you hold them in with glue. No, I mean tape. Tape or something. I'll probably hold them in by hand. Yeah, these are pretty loose tolerances, so the nuts pretty much hold themselves in, but are still loose enough to press in, like they don't fall out. Okay, that's easy. Next one. Use M3 screws. M3 by 12. We're back to the M3 by 12 thing. Okay. M3 by 12. It's kind of interesting that your eyes can kind of visually see the difference between 10 millimeters and 12 millimeters for the most part. Like 2 millimeters is not a lot of distance, but like somehow your eyes can differentiate the two. Or maybe that's just me, I'm not sure. So we're going to just be screwing these in from the top. That's super easy. These are radially symmetric. And what's interesting is there's a smooth side and there's a nut side that these screw into. And there's a nut screw. But they don't tell you how. That's annoying. I'm wondering if the original image will show me. I can't see it because it's so dark. Okay. So the screw ones are actually not the ones you put the hole through. It's the bigger ones. What's interesting is they don't use nuts or washers. They don't show you using washers. Like, I guess it's just so loose it doesn't really matter, and it will self-center itself. This is one of the, yeah. And so I guess M3x10 would not be long enough. Probably don't want to tighten super hard, but these are gonna self-center anyway. Seems like these have tight enough tolerances that you can pretty much wing it. Doesn't quite keep centered. This nut keeps falling out. I'm also being really clumsy. Kind of being ambidextrous because I don't want to cramp up my hand doing this stuff. So kind of switching off depending on which one's more comfortable. That's something I've learned that I need to do for a lot of things. Okay, I don't think these have to be super tight, but so I bet somebody has to constantly be basically taking these parts off the print farms and then sorting them. I wonder how that works. It'd be awesome if they just had a thing that just the y-axis just pushed them off the bed when they're done. But I don't think that's how this works. Okay, so these are the shorter ones that are left. 320 millimeter rods. .320, but really the Z height is only Z height is not that much. So they're basically about 8.5 by 8 inches. So or 200 millimeters. Z-axis. Preparing the Z-rods. Insert Z-rods, the shortest one, into the Z-axis bottom parts. Okay, so now we put this one back over here. We'll take this frame. Flip this around. These press in really tightly. You can tell there's a tiny split in the bottom layer, or the layer between the C screws. But they basically bottom out on the motors. They're kind of hard to press in though. Okay, assembling the x-axis. Carefully slide the x-axis on rods and trapezoidal screws. By rotating both screws simultaneously, let the x-axis slide until both trapezoidal screws are exposed, as in the picture. Insert x-axis very carefully, perfectly in axis with bearings and with minimal force. Yeah, you don't want to break these bearings. Please don't. Okay, and correct orientation, of course, which means if I'm facing the way that this is facing, the motor goes down this way. Yeah, that's kind of cool. The Z rods actually start straight in there. Um, oh, there you go. I think the X carriage is slightly little bowed. So these things, that's why they don't put you in caps, because there's a slight enough tolerance to be able to push this forward. The motor is behind here, so you notice from the picture, it looks like they're just having it rest on the motor, the back of the motor. Okay. Can you see me? Live stream. Yeah, unfortunately you can't see from the video that I just took, but let me move it over so you can kind of see what I did. I basically pushed these through. Oh, you can't see that far, can you? There you go. Let's move this out of the way and I'll show you better. Okay. Basically, I wanted to thread both bearings at the same time, so these are flexible a little bit. And then I also want to make sure that these are centered in the Z nut here, and all of those at the same time. Very, very carefully got the bearings in the rods without pushing really hard. They did slide pretty straight, which gives you which kind of proves how true these plastic parts are. And of course, these like thread really easily because they're not only they're tapered, but they're tapered with 4 starts, so it only has to be a 25 90-degree angle to each thread start instead of 100 or 360. So basically, it's hard to mess up basically. But you don't want to bend this, so I'm going to put it on the edge here, so I won't adjust it on camera, but you'll be able to see. Okay, now place parts on the top frame as in the picture. Since these are backwards, they're keyed. So actually, the flat part goes towards the top. And there's a little bit of stringing. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. These are kind of hard to press in. I can show you better this way. Basically what I'm trying to do now is press these Z end stops in, or Z holder, rod holders. These are very far inside. Okay, so that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. They definitely could redo a little bit of that part. Mainly just maybe oversight. Well, it has to be tight. This has to be tight because we definitely don't want the Z-bars moving at all. But it doesn't have to be overly tight. I think it's because the first layer was slightly too small, like slightly too low on the first layer. So it's kind of tapering that side in. I don't know why there's a hexagon on one side. Well, I'm gonna just try to get rid of this first layer. Just cutting the rim around the first layer. Trimming the part a little bit. What's cool is if I break any of these parts, I can just print them again. They're really easy. Really easy to print. So, and I have orange filament. It's not going to look perfect. It's not going to look exactly the same, but there we go. press isn't a little bit easier, but I think if I just, there you go. That's much easier. I think the other one was just really tight. Two more screws. This wrench. Yeah, it's hard to get leverage on this one part. But I don't want to strip the screw. I don't know if that's what I'm doing. Yeah. I don't know, really tight. Alright, there you go. Yeah, I guess you can't really over tighten. This must be really solid steel. Or, well, it's too light to be steel. This should be heavy. It's definitely aluminum, but it must be really strong aluminum. Okay. That was nerve-wracking. Next part, cable management. Oh, my favorite. Zip ties. Don't like that. Okay, so tie the cables, zip ties in the holes from the bottom of the frame. Note that the left motor Z motor cables are tied with the last zip tie. .242 and good. This is a little bit easier than the Mental 90. Mental 90 I had to run the Y axis all the way over, or the Z axis motor all the way over. For some reason, this motor and this motor, it's like this goes this way, this goes over this way, and then these are zip tied together. Don't know why that is. It looks pretty tight to me. Of course, cleaning up. Screw the pliers, I'm using scissors. Okay, here we go. Assembling the y-axis. Grab the y-axis assembly in your hand and slide it onto the frame. You should be able to lift the constructed printer as a whole. Tighten the M10 nuts to the frame. Ensure that there is a washer between the nut and the frame on both sides. Ensure the correct orientation of the y-axis assembly and the frame. Longer parts should be on the side with the motors. Okay. Longer parts should be on the side with the motors. Okay. So they show it upside down like this. And this side like this. So it looks like this goes under here. So I'll loosen these. Spread the washers apart. this thing is going to be super tight. They only went to tighten one side. I want to get calipers and just to make sure that these are square. That's about as close as I'm gonna get it. Okay, those should be tight. Okay, now for the fun part. Okay, you're not going to be able to see this because this is on the back that we're basically putting the belt on. You can kind of see what I'm doing on the instructions. Oh, yeah. This is a much longer one. Should be almost a little over twice the width. Okay. Insert the flat part of the GT2 belt, longer one, into the carriage as in the picture. Guide the belt around the pin as shown in the picture. Insert the belt all the way into the holder as shown in the picture. Note that there is no belt going out of the X carriage. That's important. Okay. Yeah, so basically no slack at all. It's coming out of the carriage. Okay. So basically really tight belt. Okay, wow. Yeah, the X belt tension is going to be really interesting. It's almost off by like one tooth. Yeah, that's good. Use the pliers to kind of push it in. You know what? I'm going to adjust the camera just a little bit. You should be able to see more. There you go. Nice. Yeah, I think it's because I changed orientations. X-axis belt through idler. Turn this around. So one side seems to be higher than the other. I'm not sure they really tell you in the. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's this part. Yeah, one side was slightly off. So what I've noticed is that the frame, the whole thing should be actually riding on these felt pads, which have a little bit of sponge to them, but all the weight should be there. So I should have like a few millimeters of a gap. Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm supposed to have a gap between the metal frame. Yeah, that makes more sense than what I was doing. Basically, so that you're squaring it to the table instead of squaring it to a two-part frame. I was messed up by like one little. See, these are the things I don't show in the the manual. They should. But yeah, these bolts right here are probably the most important part of this printer, from what I can tell. Yeah, that's kind of annoying, actually. See, if I was to do this, I would have probably I would make it a box frame, but I'd make it a box frame that has constraints. See, now you can see it's easy to turn around because I can just slide it. So I'm putting the belt through the pulley here. So these are the kind of things that I'm looking for by pre-assembling the kit, that I can tell people when we're doing the workshop how to put this together. Because a lot of this is really important. Because the auto calibration can't compensate for everything, especially if your whole platform is like this. You're going to be always printing like this, which means it has to compensate. And this then has to be rectilinear, which I don't think it compensates for, but see, that's why I kind of like, that's why I don't like automatic compensation, because it seems like you'd be better off just leveling the bed to whatever inconsistencies of the frame, so that the bed at least is in the same plane as your X and Y, instead of just rigidly mounting your platform and hoping that you're compensating Z, so it's constantly doing it, but it's also trying to do it up and down. Unless it's compensating by shifting the X-axis over, you still have a precision, that you have to deal with. Okay. Well, I'm sure this is going to be good, because I'm sure so many people have given me good reviews. But it's still something that I probably will. I'll read the comments to this page, but it's still something that I don't think they remarked in the construction of this thing. Okay, so we're going to guide the belt through this little hole in the back, which is very nice. See, I can move the head easily. Okay, X-axis motor belt guide. Guide the X-axis through the X and motor belt and pull it back. I also don't think I tightened this motor on this screw right here. So this goes through here. This little holder. Goes all the way out. And then goes back around. Here, and then you guide the loop through here, and the motor should spin perfectly. The belt should be it's slightly twisted, but again, that depends on the alignment, which is pretty much dead on. And then the next step, of course, is to loosen your screws on your motor. I knew that was coming. What did I do? Where's the Allen wrench? So you gotta loosen the ones that are two in the front. Okay, so you can see that rotation. Basically, we're just going to rotate it inward, which means I have to remove the screw out of the frame. By the way, black and orange is a cool combination. Not just because of Halloween colors, but because it's like high contrast and black, like kind of chic looking. To me, it looks like construction, like engineering type thing, which is like usually black and yellow. Kind of some bright neon color to kind of like caution, and then black is like engineering black, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I just like the color scheme. Okay, so we're gonna tilt the motor inward, like so. Tighten the belt. How much does it move? It moves like, I can't tell, but it moved that much. Okay. I don't think it matters as long as it's tight. Tighten the X belt part. One. Again, I can't show you because I'm facing it, but I'm just looping the belt around. You can tell they gave you extra belt just in case you screw this up. I do have a GT2 belt, so this is not a big deal if I screw it up. Insert the flat part of the belt, shown in the picture. Okay, got it around the pin as shown. Okay, push the belt all the way to the carriage. Okay, the belt shouldn't be tight at the moment. It's not tight. And rotate the motor back, screw it in. If you have to apply too much force, experience troubles, rotate the motor back, repeat the previous step while making the belt more loose. The belt should be quite tight, it should ping like a music string. This step is illustrative. Okay. I think I'm pretty sure what the motor ping is. But I don't know how tensioned it should be. This makes a different sound than this does, but I think it should be tighter. So let's try this again. You want it to be tight enough that like you don't have slop. Well, you're not gonna get slop. You're gonna get resonance. So the motor kind of going back and forth is gonna have a little bit of like play, and you want to minimize the play by the tightness of the bone. Of course, too tight and then nothing. It kind of basically binds the motor. Or I don't know. I think you want it as tight as possible. This is all estimation at this point for me. I mean, I kind of you learn some things about printers and how they work, but a lot of it's kind of like, okay, is it good enough? So I'm tilting it all the way. It's pretty loose. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to adjust it by like 1, 2, 3 teeth. Push it all the way in. Push the motor all the way back. It fell at pop. Let's put one screw in this time. So one of the things I'm probably going to 3D print is a tool holder for the Prusa. Because I don't want these tools to go to waste. Of course, I'll probably just add it to my stack. For musically gifted people, I think that's a half step. So they're about a half step off musically. But I don't think it really matters. I don't think these are really loose. No, that is just not tight. Okay, one more time. I'd like 3 more bolts, and I think that's going to be like way too tight. Because I won't be able to get the motor on there if it's not tight enough. This is definitely not a 10-hour build. I have 12 hours basically to teach this class, so 1, 2, 3. That's gonna be really tight. Did they show how many teeth? Something keeps slipping. It's pretty tight. The x-axis is a little tighter. You can't really hear that, but anyway, I don't know how tight it's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be rubbing on the bottom part, which is not. Okay, screw it. Gently tighten both screws until slight force is applied on both sides of smooth rods. So this is tensioning those smooth rods. I think now this thing's gonna have a lot of movement to compensate for. Okay. Just assembled your x-axis. Oh boy. Oh boy, the assembly assembly. Extruder assembly. Okay. What I will need. Okay. Let's put this out of the way. And more parts. E-axis. Cool. So I am not a fan of this kind of extruder, but I will do it because it comes with the kit. Okay, extruder cover is this. Extruder body, extruder lever, fan nozzle. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Oh, it says hot. It's really ugly looking hot logo though. I wish they would have changed the color mid-print, but you can see it says hot. Probably, I don't know. There you go. Hot. You see it? I think you see it. Maybe you don't. Okay. Now I'm gonna figure out where you are in frame. I'm gonna move this over here. I'm gonna shift this over here. Now we have a motor assembly here. Okay. Back. That's not it. Okay. Oh. Nozzle? Why is that part black? I think it looks better black, actually. I might have to reprint that one. Okay. As long as it's functional. Okay. This comes with E-axis. God, more zip ties. What would you think? Oh, there's really long zip ties and there's short zip ties. Okay. More short zip ties. If you want to be obsessive, you get all the zip ties. It's in the same orientation. Okay, not a big deal. Okay, so this is interesting. We want to get M3 nuts into the traps on the left side. Extruder body. M3 nuts. M3 square nut. Square nut. Just like this. So nut goes into that trap right there. Pull the nut trap through. I think that's fine. Usually you taper your nut traps so that they kind of taper inside the body. The next one is going to be right here. Perfect. Make sure the right orientation of the nut. The square nut should just drop in or press in. Oh, they press in. Square nuts were a great idea. I am glad that Prusa did that. I am a fan of that. Square nuts. Oh, nice. The extruder. The hot end is pre-made. It's a pre-built E3D V6. I have built an E3D V6. What's cool about this one is this is the newest generation that actually has a cartridge, a thermistor cartridge. So the E3D V6 that I have has a nut or a little grub screw, a little cap screw with a washer, and these super delicate thermistors that constantly break, or they break if you like look at them wrong. Wow, even the PTFE tube is tapered inside there. So the PTFE tube is actually tapered, looks like with a drill or something, and so that's going to guide the filament properly. That's a really nice touch. Again, I don't know how well. There's a little flashing inside here. So there's a little flashing in here, but it's basically tapered so that the filament will guide itself directly in here. I don't know how well it does filament, what do you call it? Those kind of filaments, flexible filaments. The other interesting thing, oops, losing my nuts. Okay, the other interesting thing is the guide. This guide in here, it's not the best looking part. Like, it's a little thin, but I think I trust them. Slide the extruder body on the nozzle as shown in the picture. Push the nozzle all the way down to make sure the cables are on the side shown in the picture. So let me see what the picture shows. Oh, I see. Okay. So basically what they want you to do is this is the back part. You put the feed tube in there, which of course they angle at the right angle. So you make sure the feed tube is in. It's a little tight. Oh. That's it. It nicely snaps in there. Wow. That's cool. So I guess this little guide tube goes exactly to the spot it should, right here. And it looks like it's going to guide the filament flexibles and stuff. I'm assuming your idler and everything is going to be like directly up against this part, and your thing's going to be right here. So you basically are going to be pinching the filament right here, and it's going to go straight in the nozzle. That's if everything works. Flexible filaments are just hard to print, and I've gotten them to print on my other Mendel 90 by basically cutting the tube at a 90-degree angle and making it flush. But of course, the rest of the way, this is a solid, tight fit, and it looks like they also have tightened this together, so I don't have to retighten it. But everything looks perfect. Flush, it's flat, it goes together really nicely. This is why you pay big bucks for printers. Okay. This is the extruder cover. It's this one. M3 nuts. And the traps. So I've kind of figured out what trap music is. Still don't know. But don't want to lose M3 nuts. Basically, I'm going to put on this screw, guide it in properly. There we go. It's pretty loose. This goes in here. The perimeters didn't. It looks like they only used 2 perimeters, but the perimeters are kind of, they didn't have any infill, so it's kind of basically, this part's not that strong. But it's okay. The nozzle, I don't think this does anything important. The top nut needs to be pushed all the way down. The nut trap has 2 diameters. Only last 3 millimeters have correct diameter for it. What? Yep. This needs to be pushed all the way down. I don't know how we're going to do that, but just put a crap load of force onto it. Okay. There we go. I don't want to pull it too far. But it looks like it's in. Okay, good. Oh, okay. They have a different way of doing it. If you are experienced troubles getting the nut in the top hole, do this following. Screw to the push the screw in the nut hole. It's supposed to be grab the screw pliers. and channel. I'll try what they're saying. So you'll actually hear the difference between the deadening when it's done and then when it actually hits the table. So that is as close as I'm going to get it in that hole. That's a good tip though. I never learned that about the other nuts. Okay, place the extruder cover. Cover. Ew. Nope. That's not going to do. The fan vent has stringing all over it. So I'm going to clean that up. It did bridging really well though. Like, I don't visibly see too much stringing except for this part. But this part looks pretty ugly. Again, not a fan of the PLA, but it does print nicely. PLA prints nicely, it just doesn't, I don't think it's not useful, because if you can't have something near hot stuff, then, like, I don't know. There might be higher temperature PLAs that I could try. ABS has its own problems, though. The main one is that this can't be, I'm not going to probably build an enclosure for this printer, or I will, but I'm not going to be able to run the enclosure at a high enough temperature because the PLA parts will start to soften. It's not going to be a heated chamber though, like it's just going to be ventilated. But I want it to be able to, I'm going to switch the ventilation modes, so I'm going to have PC fans that can either intake or exhaust, depending on what they're doing. I'm going to use a charcoal filter, probably to remove a lot of contaminants. This is a really thin overhang though. So, cheers for that overhang. That is a thin overhang. That's really pushing the machine to its limits. With FDM printing is kind of like that. If you don't have like supports, like they could have done this with supports, and most likely we would have done a lot of this with support material on other printers. But no support's needed on the machine itself. Okay. So it says use M3 by 18. M3 by 20. M3 by 18. Green. Square nuts keep coming up. I'll just make it look like this. There we go. M3 by 25. Nope. Ah, the one in the spring. Okay. M3 by 18. Find the correct orientation of the cable leading to the extruder. Yes. It is coming out the side from the back. Okay. Oh, that one shows a different picture. That's weird. Oh, the block is bigger because of the thermistor being different. Okay. Why does that have? Oh, I see. It's double nutted. Oh. Yeah, screws go on pretty easily. There we go. It wasn't tightening. You gotta push them through. These are really tight hole tolerances for these. Nut drivers are killing me. Oh, okay, got it. There's a fan right here. This is really cool, actually. I'm glad that they have the both fans in there properly, like not just an afterthought, like the clip It actually funnels the air like the original E3D funnel, but it actually has vent holes, and the vent holes push the air upwards so that the heat isn't being put onto the part. It actually is pulling it away from the part, which is really, really ideal. And then this is the tumbler fan, which is the radial fan that's going to blow on the part. Okay, 1 more hour, I'm powering through this. Tighten until the nozzle stops moving. Make sure. I think it is so tight in there. It's not going anywhere. Oh, extruder motor. Yay, finally. Okay, no more motors. You can throw that box away. I'm not keeping any of these boxes except for the main one. I'm not shipping anything back to Prague, so that's okay. So this is the pulley, as they say. It does pull the filament, so I guess it is a pulley. It is a very nice grooved pulley for 1.75. I don't have any 1.75 to look at it, but I'll trust them. Note the correct orientation. The screw has to be closer to the motor. Okay, press the motor on the pulley. Do not tighten the pulley until the moment we still have time for that. Okay, easy. D-shaft. The grub screw is too tight, so wrench. Small grub screw. I still don't know why we need a flathead screwdriver. I guess we'll get to that point. Okay, done. Mounting the motor, we need the M3x20. M3x20 are the long ones, but not the really long ones. The M3x40s, I'm sure, are used for the bolt carriage, for the carriage of bolts. I need 2 of these. Mount the motor on the extruder body as shown in the picture. Double check proper orientation of the motor cables. Tighten the motor screws gently. Don't forget to have the idler in place. The screw has to go through it. Mind the correct orientation of the motor cables. Yes. Motor cables. This. Motor goes on this side. Cables face down. Screws go on that side. That's not mentioned anywhere. They really should mention that. So one thing that the instructions don't really tell you. Oh wow. That is a genuine E3D hologram sticker on the extruder motor. So they use genuine E3D like approved extruder motors, I guess. That's cool. Oh, so anyway, what they don't tell you is the is that your idler lever has to be Your reliable lever has to be put through the screw, but they only show you it through pictures. So um, it would be nice if the instructions told you also. It's tight enough that it's actually squeaking through the plastic. So they say gently, but they show them using the wrench side. Seems gently to me. Okay. They should have given you torque specs so you could torque each screw, but I think the plastic would give if you try to torque it any higher than what the rating is. Make sure that the part with the smaller diameter is perfectly aligned with the nozzle. Make sure that the part with the smaller diameter. Is there a bigger diameter? Oh. I see what they mean, smaller diameter. Oh my god, I can't see that. It's cool being able to build the extruder like this though, because you can see how perfectly aligned this is to the guide hole. Okay. As far as I can tell, that's pretty straight. God, that is gonna bite the filament so hard. The only issue I have with this is that the not going to be really friendly for flexibles. Oh, cool! I can see the nozzle. I can see the 0.4 millimeter hole. Yeah, it's ever so slightly off. Okay. This is a really boring part, but I don't know how perfect I want this. Yeah, that's probably fine. Yeah, so basically, I don't know how this is going to do with flexible filaments. It looks like it'll be probably fine once you guide it in there. It just, there's still a gap for it to, nah, it's not that bad. Okay. I'm just being paranoid. Okay. You can tell he uses a flashlight. Look at this picture. Oh, okay. He doesn't use a flashlight, but you can see he put it down on the table. Okay. Okay, M3 square nut. Into the traps. It's a trap. I'd probably make my manuals all memeified. Like put memes all over my 3D printer manuals. They wouldn't be funny though. Bearing. Bigger washers. Ball bearing. This is a 625, so it's a 5mm bolt. And there's a 5mm piece of plastic. I don't know why they printed this little piece of plastic. Like, that's... Okay. I can't complain because my printer is just a piece of plastic for the bearing. Like, this is strong enough to hold the bearing. And it looks like it's 100% infill. Yeah. Man, that's a hard print. That's a hard part to print. A hard part to print well. It's kind of tight, though. Well, the bottom layer is always super tight, so they must have a slight tolerance to it. But still, nothing that they haven't compensated for, which is really good. Assembling the idler. Oh. That is super simple. Goes right in, spins, it's centered. It wasn't in all the way. It free spins. That's good. A little bit of wobble, but it's tension, so it doesn't matter. Place there. Prepare the extruder, idler screws. Is anybody watching? One person watching, which is just me. This is one part I really hated on the Mendel 90. Was putting these things together. I couldn't find these springs either. These springs were a hard thing to find, especially at the hardware store. And they were for M4 screws, so they weren't this tight. This is a little bit way more compact than the Wade's extruder. So this is kind of a Wade's slight design air tripper, whatever you go with. But it's a pretty similar design to pretty much all the other extruder designs out there. Screw the extruder screws in the extruder body using this picture. Length of the spring should be 13 millimeters when tightened. Oh my god, really? Okay. I don't like having to do this because then I have to. Because if you ever want to first of all, if you ever run out of filament, you got to take this apart. And if you okay, good. So the idler actually does run. The idler actually presses against the edges of the pulley. So. I don't like it because you're putting that much tension. You're putting that much tension on the plastic, basically. Oh, yeah, they have to be. 13 millimeters is quite deep. Let's see if I can pull it up on my phone. How come I can't find my video? It's still beta, so it looks weird. Okay. Sorry for boring you guys. I just wanted to see what it looks like on my phone. So let me copy the link. Okay. So 10 hours, maybe 12 hours. This is 10 hours. I think it would be 10 hours if we didn't like socialize or take breaks. If I had a full day to do this, like I got up at like, noon, I could get this done in a day. This is not, I think I could get this printing by nighttime. Like, I think it's just because I had to stop and restart and stop and restart. I think that's the only reason. So 13 millimeters. This thing's gonna have to be cranked down basically. Circa means around 13 millimeters. I'm going to try to see if my mom actually would get on this live stream, but she's still up. Ooh, the fan. I love these fans. These are, honestly, I need to buy so many more of these. Little 50 millimeter fans. Like, I think one of these could work on this other printer that I'm working on, the CNC Eris. It could just, but there's not really any room on that hot end, so it would help a lot though with the printer. That's why this printer is gonna have a fan. And what's cool about it is it's gonna basically blow directly in here, I think. I actually have no clue how this is mounting. Oh. Just like this. Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. So it's actually gonna blow, air straight onto the part at this angle. So it's gonna blow out like that. Okay, wow. That's gonna be really cool. And it's blowing it back towards the wires, so it's gonna blow it away from the part, from the front. It would be better if it was doing it from like around the part, so it was evenly blowing the air, kind of like a vortex. So M3 by 20 screws. M3 by 20. Screw the fan onto the extruder using the 2.5 millimeter hex spanner as shown in the picture. Do not fully tighten at this moment. The fan should just be secured in place. So it looks like the top and bottom. It even says Prusa research on the sticker. But it's made in China, so it's not perfect. I don't know where you get these fans made anywhere else besides China, so. Okay, it's loose. Fan nozzle. M3 by 20. 3 by 20. Goes through here. Cool. That just screws into the plastic. I guess I didn't really need a nut for that, but. Yeah, it looks like it goes. Yeah, and there's this little lip. It's basically just funneling all that air in there. And drive the screw to the screw holder. It'll thread itself into the plastic, but when you do enough friction, I think the friction actually starts to soften the PLA, and it kind of melts into the threads if you do it fast enough. If I put this together with my screwdriver, my powered screwdriver, this thing would probably be stripping everything. But yeah, so that's basically it. There's just a little funnel, like just a little vent that blows out, and this blows a lot of air. So it's going to be blowing down into the part and hopefully away from the part so that the heat dissipates into the air. Again, that's why probably for PLA, which this will probably do mostly, I don't think so. I think this will probably do ABS. But either way, I can ventilate the enclosure. That's why I need to make an enclosure that's controllable, which I'll probably do with a Raspberry Pi. Oh, tighten the fan nozzle. So this is called a PINDA probe. I think it's Prusa inductive probe, basically. I don't know what it stands for. It's this beautiful little piece of technology. It's basically just an inductive coil with a transistor that tells it when it's close to the bed, like a little switch, and it has a little light that glows, like a little LED that glows when it touches. Okay, so the fan cables go through here. Okay, cool. So we're basically making to put the PINDA probe into here. According to the picture, it should be in line. The top of it should be in line with that, but the wire looks like it needs to go like that, and this needs to be looped. So pinch it and loop it through there. Somebody's trying to message me. Okay, exact position of the probe will be adjusted later during calibration described in the 3D printing handbook. So there is no need to adjust or tighten fully at this point. It's hand tightened. The best position for mounting at this point is to line the end of the probe with the end of the hook on the extruder body. Note the loop on the cable from the probe. It's necessary to do it like that. thin 3x18. These are all thin 3x18s. I think it's definitely been more than 3 hours. But oh, cool. So the motor wires go in this little channel. God, they really thought everything out, did they? This is the 40mm fan. The annoying 40mm fan. I hate these things. I wish they would put bigger fans on these. It's pressing down. We want the fan wire. Yeah, it looks like they put the fan. Yeah, they put the fan wires. They took the fan wires out of here and put them facing outward. So. Again, the hole tolerance on these being 3mm, or just enough so that they get thread, but not too tight that they crack the plastic. Especially how thin this plastic is. Like these sidewalls are so thin. With looks like 2 perimeters. Yeah, they only put 2 perimeters on these, so they're not stripping through the plastic. So these hole tolerances are really good. I was definitely stressing the ABS when I was when I was tightening my screws and my Mendel 90 parts. Tighten the screws gently. That's what they say. This extruder assembly is pretty heavy because the NEMA 17 motor. I think my Mendel 90 still has a lighter carriage because of the E3D and the really tiny pancake motor that I used. Oh, crap. I definitely don't want to break a fan blade on this. There you go. Anyway, that was a little scary. Yeah, the I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, the little pancake motor on the Mendel 90 is pretty lightweight. The whole extruder is really lightweight. Like I don't know if I'm gonna use that as my. I think I'm gonna use that as my like super quick. Like I'm gonna put a E3D volcano on it and make it my like really quick and dirty like printer, and then this will do all the like delicate small parts. So if I could design around that, I can make some really cool stuff like customer prints that are mechanical. I can do on one. Some that have to be like artistic, I can do on another. Yeah, the Siemens CNC Eris is not the most. I don't know. It's not the best printer. I keep saying that, but it's also the cheapest one I have. So I'm not expecting amazing quality out of that printer. I'm expecting a lot of quality out of this printer. But it's cool because I can pretty much see what the parts are going to look like. The Mendel 90 parts look amazing, so I can't say anything about that. But if it's as good as the Mendel 90, I'm happy because this is cheaper than the Mendel 90. Okay. Now, there's 3 different size screws. And 3x40 is the blue one that goes on the top. And 3x30 goes here. M3 by 18 goes here. Okay, this is a little weird, but okay. Guide cables. Oh god. Okay. So the extruder has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different wires that have to go through it in the right way. Let me cut this zip tie. That's too bad. Okay. This cable and this cable. Still there. Okay. These have to pass through here. The motor cable and the fan cable pass to the other side. There's a very long fan cable. Hi, Mommy. Since you're the only one watching right now. Of course, it's delayed by about like 2 or 3 minutes, so by the time you hear this. Okay. This is the longest printer build ever. I'm almost done with this step though. No, I'm not. I'm so far from being done. Okay, this is really crucial though. It's really crucial though. Really crucial though. Maybe if I say this. Okay. Okay, good night. Love you too, live. Okay. Yep. Okay, I'm cleaning up a little bit of the parts from the back and routing the cables through here. So I'm securing the extruder into the carriage. It's the longest bolt ever. I don't know where this nut is, but I'm assuming there's a capture nut that I put in there once that holds the whole thing in. It's a really complex system, though. They really thought like way ahead how this assembly goes. Again, really, really well engineered, I guess. Okay. So the head is secure. There's no play. So there was filament that was supposed to come with this really long filament. Filament parts. 50 centimeters long. This is 30. 15, 30, 45, 15. So this is 50 centimeters long. Push all the way down if you experience difficulties when inserting the filament. So the filament goes in this hole back here. Oh yeah, there's no way. It's in. Cool. Now what? Okay, so from the right side, insert the zip tie, the longer one. The long one in the package. And the right side of the X carriage so that the cable from the extruder motor and the fan are below the zip tie. Okay, so there's two options. If you have the connector on the thermistor cable, this option should for you. If you don't, go for option 2. So I have a connector on the thermistor cable. So I have to go this way. Guide the cables from the nozzle as shown in the picture. So clip this. This is an extra zip tie. Uh, okay. So zip tying it, everything. The one single zip tie is quite a challenge. Okay, cool. Finding the correct orientation for the zip tie. It's gonna have to push those wires up like this. The heater cartridge wires all the way up. Put these here. Correct orientation. Okay. So this goes in here, and we basically just tighten this thing until use the pliers. Where are the pliers? Right here. Use the pliers to pull it. Okay. Really tightly secured cable bundle for everything. Okay. Optional Pinda protector assembly prevent rare damage to the probe when a print accident lifts up. If you do not have this part, download it there. Screw it in the Pinda protector on the probe. Make sure that the end of the probe is in line with the protector. Oh, that's cool. I want to print one of those. Basically, just this little thing. It's a little like cover that will probably just it rides up in there. It's just a little plastic piece. I don't know why you need it though. Really, like it's still gonna damage the probe thing. But okay. It looks cool though. Preparing the spiral wrap. Wrap the spiral, the largest, longest one. Start with cables from the upper part after. Add one turn. Add the cables from the hot ends. Double check the movement by moving the extruder fully to the left and right, but the spiral wrap does not interfere with the printer frame. So we're using spiral wrap to get all the cables bundled together. So far the extruder has been kind of a really critical but important part, or tedious part, I should say, of this build. Probably took me about an hour or two, about 2 hours maybe, to put all this together. Yeah, this is a really thick part. It interferes on one side, but that's really the connector, which I can't do anything about, but I don't think I'm going to be going that far either. Okay, zip tie and tighten spiral wrap. Check free movement of the X carriage and inspect the cables in the full left-right position. Once satisfied with the organization of the exterior cables, finalize spiral wrap to full length. Yeah, I guess it's okay. Okay. I'm done. I guess there's gonna have to be a part 3. This is taking way longer than I was expecting this to take. So I guess I'll do it tomorrow night. Or it might be Friday night. Probably Friday night. No. Well, I'm going to be out of sleep schedule, so. Okay. Bye.